I can't die now. No, Mom, I can't die at this age. Lord, help me. What's happening? Lord, help me. Lord, don't let me die. That's how I screamed, lying on my dying bed. Hi, I am Lexi. Before I continue my story, please subscribe and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss on any further stories. I grew up in a lone parent family. My father died when I was only 5 years old. My mother took charge of my upbringing. Against all odds, I was always among the best students in my class. I was my mother's pride and joy. After graduating from high school, I continued my studies at the university. Mom was able to afford to rent a modest room for me close to the university. It contained just one bed and a study table, but I spent my entire first year in the university there without any problem. By the end of the year, my results improved, so I was promised a place in the second year of law school. At the beginning of my second year, I met a boy called Nathan. Nathan was 4 years older than me. He was in Masters 1. When I met him, he told me that I was the woman of his life, that he loved me so deeply. I believed what he told me and agreed to go out with him. After 6 months, he introduced himself to my mother, so she would know I was with someone and that he intended to make me his wife. Honey, I would like to meet your mother. It's about time she knew you were with someone. Really? Are you serious? Of course I am serious. Okay, I'll tell her and she'll set a date for us. That's fine. I was so happy. I loved him so deeply. After a few months, I got pregnant, but I didn't give up on my studies, despite my pregnancy. I was still going to school, and after 9 months, I gave birth to a beautiful little girl, whom I named Ida. My delivery was smooth, and I had no major problems at all. When I was still in the hospital, Nathan's whole family came to visit me. They were so excited about the baby's arrival. "This child looks exactly like Nathan," said his mother. "No, Mom, I don't think she looks that much like me. I'm telling you the truth, Nathan. You were exactly like her when you were born." I was so overwhelmed with joy, and so was my mother. I was already imagining myself in my wedding dress and in Nathan's arms. But little did I know that this was the beginning of my ordeal. You're probably wondering why. Well, 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital, I went to stay with my mother so she could help take care of my baby and I. Then one evening I felt sick. I couldn't breathe properly. I felt like I was running out of air. Mother asked me, worried, Lexi, what's wrong? What's happening to you? I answered with a great difficulty, Mom, I can't breathe. Mommy, please help me. Seeing that it was really serious, she rushed me to the nearest health center. But after consulting me, the nurse asked my mother to take me to another more reputable hospital. "Madam, we are sorry. We can't handle your daughter's matter here." Mom didn't give up. She quickly called another cab to take us to another hospital. While on our way still in the cab, the situation became even more complicated. I felt like I was going to die. I was running out of air. Just then, I heard my mother calling my name. But I couldn't answer. Lexi, open your eyes. Lexi, please open your eyes. Lexi. I heard my mom crying. After some time, I felt myself being put on a stretcher and taken to the emergency room. I was put on a bed to be resuscitated. But still nothing. I wasn't breathing, but still I could hear everything going on around me. I heard the doctor saying, "Madam, it's over. We couldn't save your daughter. Make all arrangements to take her to the morgue." I could hear my mom. I could hear her cry her heart out. She was crying and screaming out loud. Was I dead? Did the doctor say that I was dead? I can't die at this age. No, Mom, I can't die now. Lord, please help me. What's happening to me? Lord, help me. Lord, don't let me die. I cried out to God on my deathbed. I resumed my prayer saying, "Lord, look at Mom. Don't leave her alone. She grieves so much for me. Look at her state." Then by some miracle, I opened my eyes. And as I suspected, I was already in front of a morgue. Mommy! My mother stood up and saw that I was alive, as did everyone else. She cried out, My daughter is alive! She is alive!" And Mom said, "It's a miracle. We've never seen anything like this before. The doctor said my vital signs were functioning normally, but I couldn't move. I was indeed paralyzed. Due to the lack of funds, my mother and I had to leave the hospital to continue treatment at home. But it wasn't over yet. Back home, every evening, I had epileptic-like seizures. Every night from 10 o'clock onwards, Mom didn't understand what was going on. She walked around trying to find a cure for me, all in vain. I suffered every day, lying in my room, unable to move, let alone get up. Mom had to look after me and my daughter. She became more and more exhausted. My fiance stopped visiting me since I got out of the hospital. I hadn't even heard from him, let alone his family. My mother suffered alone for me, night and day. Despite several calls from him, he didn't deign to show any sign of life. My grandmother, having heard everything that was going on in my life, came to see me. As soon as she arrived, she looked at me and started crying. She suggested that my mother take me to a village to meet a traditional practitioner. At first, Mom didn't agree, but my grandma finally convinced her. And Mom finally agreed. After a few days, we went to the village, and the next day, we went to meet the traditional practitioner Grandma had mentioned. I admit I wasn't convinced at all by my grandmother's and Mom's decision. But what could I do? Mom was exhausted and her greatest wish was to see me cured. She would do anything for that. Just looking at all she had gone through for me, my duty was not to upset her. Once we arrived at the place, he asked us to get in. It was a very small, dark room, lit by a pale light coming from a small window. The traditional man spoke and said, This child's case is very complicated. It's her fiance who has put her in this situation. He belongs to a sect, and he courted her in order to steal her star, in particular her intelligence, and sacrifice her afterwards. The fact that she is still alive is even a divine grace for her. He wanted to kill her, but it didn't work, so she was paralyzed all the time. He said, getting up and leaving the room before suggesting a herbal treatment. After a month of treatment, I was finally back to my health. I was in the same class for almost 3 years without succeeding. I didn't understand what was going on, but today I understand everything. Mom and I had changed towns and switched phone numbers so that Nathan and his family would never find us. It seemed that while I was with him, he drew all my brain power and got the best grades. He was the top of his class, but we didn't know him as a smart kid. He used me to achieve his ends. Yet, I thought he loved me. And despite the fact that I was the mother of his child, he wanted to kill me. So he never did love me at all. I felt deep pain at that moment. I was going out with a man for the first time. How could I ever trust a man again? But later on, I tried to rebuild my life and get on with my studies.